to overclockershq.com's video review. Today we're going to be looking at the TR2 RX 750 watt modular power supply from Thermaltake. There's a mouthful for you. So basically, right off the bat, we see that it has a 5-year warranty down at the bottom there. It's eco-friendly. It's got an 80 plus efficiency standard, and it supports AMD and Intel processors and everything like that, and it's modular design. So we'll flip around to the back, just have a quick look. So included with this, there's a 1 main power connector as well as a 12 volt 4+4 pin, so that's for your CPU. So some motherboards use a 4 pin whereas others use an 8 pin, so you're covered either way. You have 2 PCI Express 6+2 pins, so that runs on the older PCI Express cards that use a 6 pin, as well as the new ones that you need an 8 pin in order to run. There's also an additional 2 6-pin PCI Express included. There's 7 SATA 5 pins as well as 7 Molex connectors, and then there's 1 floppy disk drive 4-pin connector, which is used for floppy disk drives, some of the older card readers, and actually some of the older graphics cards as well use that pin. So we'll pop this open and get a closer look. So included in the packaging is of course the instructions and warranty information. All of the Molex cable connectors. This is mostly your SATAs, PCI Expresses, and Molexes. They're all covered in a kind of a plasticky kind of mesh to kind of protect the outside shielding of the wires, so if you get them rubbing on a fan or anything like that, you got a little bit of a barrier to get through before you cause any real damage to the cabling. Also included is of course power cable. It's a pretty standard power cable. You're not going to need some substantial amperage going through this, so you don't need a big thick cable like you would with a 1000 watt power supply or anything like that. So now we'll get a closer look at the power supply itself. So here we have the power supply itself. Of course, on top is a 140 mil exhaust fan, so this sucks in cold air from the side, or the back of the case I guess it would be, and then sucks it across the components inside and then out the top, bottom, depending on where your PSU is mounted. We see the typical honeycomb style on the back. That's where your air goes in, and then of course, like I said, exhausts out the back. Pretty substantial power switch on the side, and then of course your power port. Flipping around to the other side. So this is a partially modular design, obviously, because you got your hard wired cable, which is obviously unremovable, and then of course you have 6 ports in order to install your additional connectors. Included on here is your 6+2, your 4+4, and it looks like another 6. So there's the 4+4, 6+2, and then 6, and then of course your standard 24 pin connector there. So this basically sums up the power supply. Pretty standard design all the way around. Nothing too different about this one than other Thermaltake modular power supply designs. So we're going to have some of the testing on the website. Right now, before I go, I'm just going to kind of plug this in and test it with our LCD testing unit, so you can get a understanding of what this thing can do under idle circumstances. So under idle conditions, we see that the Thermaltake TR2 RX 750 watt power supply runs at a 4.9 on the plus 5 volt rail, a 12.1 on the plus 12 volt V1, 3.3 on 3.3. On the minus 12 volt rail you get a 12.1. On the plus 12 volt 2 rail you get 12. And the 5 VSB you get 4.9, and the PG is 260 milliseconds. So overall, pretty fantastic score on this. It's staying pretty solid. The only one fluctuating just a tiny bit is the 12 volt rail, but 0.1 isn't really nothing to write home about, so it's pretty rock solid little piece of equipment. I would definitely have no issue running this on one of my builds. Just to show you that it's actually on, that's how loud it is. Basically the only background noise you hear is actually from my computer that's actually about 10 feet away, so this thing is very quiet when it's running. So for the full review, check out overclockershq.com.